Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Round 1 of the U.S. Women's Chess Championship 2015. It's being played simultaneously with the U.S. Championship at the beautiful Chess Club and Scholastic Center in St. Louis. Anybody that's in the St. Louis area, stop by. The World Chess Hall of Fame's across the street. That's definitely on my bucket list. Anyway, this is a game between Sabina Foisor, who was on the women's chess Olympic team, and the current women's world champion, Krush, as black. Interesting game. I'm going to call this one Dodging a Bullet, and we're going to see who dodges the bullet here. Foisor is white, Krush is black. It's going to be another Nimzo Indian. We just saw one earlier with Cordisco, I believe it was. D5, pawn takes, bishop G5, H6, bishop goes back, castles, knight F3. I'm not a big fan of that pin on the knight on F6, but it's not the end of the world. You can move the queen to D6 if you really wanted to. C5, E3, bishop E6. Now, according to the computer off screen, this is the last book move. D takes, knight C6. Sacrifices the pawn, but there's no way you can save that pawn anyway. Bishop B5, G5, which I thought was really ambitious. She almost has to get rid of that bishop now. Queen can't go to D6, at least temporarily. Bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop G3. She doesn't take the pawn right away. She doesn't have to. Knight to E4. This is interesting. It's already gotten incredibly complicated already. I mean, look at this. This bishop doesn't look like it's doing much here. But I'll tell you the truth, some people call that a giant pawn. But actually what he's doing, he's supporting a extremely important pawn here. Castles, knight takes, A3, one of them's got to go. He checks, I should say she checks, queen takes, bishop takes. I finally got the pawn back. Black's two bishops look pretty powerful right there. We're going to see how this works out. Rook A to C1, get it on the open file, or semi-open file. Queen to E7. She decides to kick the bishop, and Krush goes to B6 with a bishop. Now let's take a breath and take a look here. And I'll tell you the truth. I don't think black is losing, but I think white's ahead. I think it's a lot easier to play for white. I'm not sure what's wrong with the position. I know the computer shows it about a pawn a third advantage for white, but I'm not sure what it is. But maybe it just doesn't look too coordinated. I'm not really sure. Rook takes, rook comes over, doubles up, rook takes, rook CH. Trying to get rid of the rooks. Rook C2, basically forcing her to trade. Okay, here we are. Minor piece queen endings. Can't get much more complicated than that, but look at the holes. Granted, black's got a dark squared bishop, but I mean, look at these holes here. And you're going to see that. It's going to come into play. G4, kicking the knight. Bishop hits the queen first, the intermezzo move. And then the knight goes to E5. Now, that's a good spot for that knight. Who's going to chase him off? Dark squared bishop. And how's he going to get there? It's going to take a while. Queen to G7. Queen to D6. It's like the noose is tightening. I would be a little worried right now if I was black. It only shows a pawn advantage for white, but that's why computers will never replace us guys watching chess games, because there's human beings playing, and it's a lot more fun, and it's a lot more exciting, and it's a lot cooler to watch. That's why they have tournaments with computers playing each other. And I've seen a lot of articles written, one's on ChessBase this week about that, computers playing each other in the games and the analysis. Forget it. Computers are a great tool for us chess players to help us learn, but forget it as far as excitement goes. It'd be like two computers playing pool or any other game or tennis. Who would watch it? Forget it. I also want to mention, as far as humans go, instead of computers, it's the pressure, the stress, and I'll tell you what I mean. I'm sure Irina, who's defending women's U.S. champion, had pretty high hopes. And it's tough making a living in chess, especially, unfortunately, if you're a female player. There's not a lot of big tournaments around. And she travels around a lot, but doesn't really get the invites like the guys do. And I'm sure she counts on this money and to live her everyday life. And she's the defending champion. She's expected to win, or at least be in the running till the end. And here she is, faced with a tough situation. Queen h7. I did want to mention also that at this point, Sabina Foisor was way down on time. We're on move 26. I think she had 3 or 4 minutes left to maybe 8 or 9 for Krush. And comes out with a really good move that, who would have saw this? H3. Has to take. Bishop F6. Wow. What a find that was. I couldn't have found that. That's something a computer would find. Speaking of computers. Queen checks. King to H2. Queen to C2. Queen to C6. She's going to get mated. She'd go into B8 instead. Check. If those of you that are wondering, after queen, queen takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop C7. I don't like that as much for white. After queen to C6, she almost has to take. And let's look at this here for a minute. Queen to B8 checks the computer's choice, but she traded. Give you an idea, if queen had taken F2, here's the mate. Check. Mate. What great coordination between that knight, bishop, and queen. Knight takes. Pawn takes. A4. So the pressure's off a little bit with the queen's off the board, but she still has to win this ending. I think Krush can win this? About a third of a pawn advantage for white. Nothing to speak of, but you still got to be alert. Bishop. B5. Can't take, of course, because the pawn will be down the board. Knight B4. Bishop H3. Interesting. Computer likes bishop to G4. Probably figures it's going to lose that pawn anyway. Bishop C5, bishop E6. Decided to go H3 instead. Knight takes. King E8. Scores climbed up a little bit, a little over a point advantage for white, but can white convert? Bishop. Bishop E6. Knight. It's getting complicated, folks. Bishop A5. Bishop takes, king takes, or excuse me, bishop C7, and then king takes. It's pretty much an even game. Bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop A4, and this is where they drew it. It's a drawn game. It's going to be opposite colored bishops on top of it. So there you have it. I think, in my opinion, Irina Krush dodged the bullet. I don't think she played poorly. I just think Foisor played really well. And Irina wasn't as accurate as she should have been. And Foisor, you could just tell she had something there. She just wasn't enough to finish Irina off. And Irina survives. That's what I'm going to call this video, Irina Survives. So there you have it. Round 1 of the U.S. Women's Chess Championship 2015. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.